it is possible for somebody to live in the all-in state all the time.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Jeff Heilman Project. We are here today. Happy Friday for all of our audio listeners.
What's
and
up,
happy
peoples?
Tuesday for our video subscribers. So glad to have you here with the Jeff Heilman Project. Now, last week we did something special on our last episode, and we actually played a board game, the Best Friends board game. So if you haven't gotten a chance to watch that, go back and watch or listen to that one, and you'll see how it so perfectly cues up for the next 4 episodes, which we will be producing here on the Jeff Heilman Project. So what we're going to be talking about, Jeff, in the next 4 weeks,
It's always a surprise for me, by the way. I don't know if people know this listening, but this is a surprise. This is like her little guilty pleasure.
This is the best content that we can produce, is when you are in the dark as to what it is that we're about to talk about. But what we're going to be talking about is the importance of play. And play, what we've got brought down into an acronym is P.L.A.Y, which is why we're going to cover it over the next 4 weeks. So P stands for provoke a change. And so what that means, and what we're going to talk about on this episode, is provoking a status change. What play and the importance of what play can do for our changes in who we are, what we're doing, how we're approaching things. L, next week, we're going to be talking about leading to a response. So play, when done properly, when done effectively, will always lead to a response. The third week, action. It is to activate our energy. So we're going to become activated in our energy. We've talked on this podcast about the importance of rest and how rest and play are different. Rest is restorative, whereas play is active. And so there's an important role for both. And then in the third week, we're going to talk more about what playing does to activate our energy.
How fun.
And
this
then
sounds great.
in week 4, we're actually going to talk about yielding to something greater. And so when you play properly, at the end of our play, I see it all the time with my kids. I see it when we actually go out and actively play. At the end of our play, there's always a moment where we're yielding, where we're completely surrendering. We've had so much fun. We've laughed. We've exuberated energy. And it is just a phenomenal feeling, a almost euphoric feeling as a response to playing and playing hard. Work hard, play hard. So that's the next 4 weeks. That's what we're setting up for today.
To something
that
greater.
was the response coming out of last week's episode, playing the Best Friends board game. And who knows, maybe by week 5 we'll play another game. But so for today, Jeff, I would like to talk to you a little bit more about how play provokes a change. It provokes a status, a status, not meaning like status in your economic status, but state change, excuse me. It provokes a state change. And maybe you could tell our listeners, our viewers, about this most recent activity that you have done with your daughter and your sons in the provoking of a state change at the skateboard store.
That's right. A couple of things are coming to mind as you're talking about that. And it's always crazy because I never know what these are. It's like the surprise of the week is whatever we're going to talk about publicly. So there's no chance for me to prepare for these. I guess that's kind of the point. You enjoy your guilty pleasure of holding these over my head and being able to see how I respond to them.
What can I say? I like to provoke a change.
I like to provoke
a state change.
So we'll talk about a couple of things, just ideas that came to mind. But I want to go back to I have not had, we had this conversation this morning. I have not had a single one job 30-year career working at a company and investing in 401ks and doing ESPPs and all the typical investment vehicles. It just was not That was not in the cards for me for whatever reason. And in the beginning, it was horrifying because I was telling somebody on the phone an hour ago that, and they've had one just steady stream of income. They've funded all their investment vehicles and paid off their house. And guy's a couple years older than me. But we haven't done those things. I've started over after going broke, I think 3 or maybe 4 times. And I mean, like literally down to where we owe more than we owe more than we have cash on hand. And I've done that multiple times. But it's also allowed me to do a bunch of different things: startup companies, working for Cisco, working for IBM, working for Intel, and doing really innovative, cool things like working on building projects and selling products that didn't exist a year or 2 years before I came on the scene to try to do it. And one of the things that was interesting is I had a chance to play professional golf for 10 years. It's probably sounds more glorious than it actually was. It was actually sleeping on the floor and flipping a quarter to see whether my caddy or I got the hideaway bed, living on Jimmy John's and rental cars that were too small for me, and trying to dodge meetings getting scheduled by my inside sales rep because I was still in sales at the time. And one of the processes that we went through in trying to get better, and anybody who's been a competitive athlete, whether it's professional or otherwise, like if you get obsessed about it, you will do anything. You'll do anything to try to get better, to shave strokes off your game, to shave pounds, to increase your strength or your muscle pliability at the gym. Like you'll just do whatever. It just becomes an obsession. Like you leave no stone unturned. And so this is probably 2017. So I'm like 7 or 8 years in, still hadn't made it into a PGA Tour event. Still never made any money on the mini tour. I made some money gambling and just side bets and stuff, but nothing significant. I come across Coach Ryan at San Diego State, had a charity event, and a friend of mine hooked us up. And we had a chance to play in a tournament. David is his name, and he's a fan of the podcast and a great father and a great friend and a mentor. We have an opportunity to play in this tournament, and it just so happened that year that the U.S. Amateur was won by a guy that Ryan Donovan had cut. He had just cut him because he wasn't that disciplined. He wasn't showing up. I guess he was kind of whiny or whatever. And then he cuts him, takes him off scholarship and cuts him from the team, or gives him a leave of absence or something. And he goes off and wins the U.S. Amateur like a few weeks later. So he was a little bit eating crow there. And the guy that won it was totally cool about it. And I think Ryan was having more fun at himself in the situation than anything. But in that process, it came out that David said, hey, Jeff's trying to get on tour. And he said, well, I've got a guy that you should meet. His name is Dr. J. Brunza, who was head of the PTSD ward at the U.S. Navy Hospital in San Diego for 20 years, and who also had the claim to fame of being Tiger Woods' mental toughness coach for 8 years prior to Tiger turning professional. And all of this to come to the letter P for provoking a change. I spent a sizable sum of money to sit down with Dr. Brunza for a few hours. And we had breakfast. We drove from his place in San Diego to breakfast, and we got to know each other a little bit. And then we sat down and did some deep breathing exercises, some stretching, and just some things having to do with state change. And then we went and hit balls. And he gave me a few just things on lining up, basically, which really helped. And I use those to this day. And then we went back to his place before the session ended, and he took me through this meditation. And it was like a guided trance meditation to where he's like, quietly, and I've still got the recording. I listened to it the other day. It was so good. And he takes me deeper, and he would say, deeper into that peak performance zone. Imagine yourself. And he was very quiet about it. The recording is ridiculously powerful. And he would just say, you're going deeper into that peak performance state. And imagine yourself with perfect temperature. There's a pyramid of golf balls ready to hit. Grass is perfect. There's not too much dew on it, which impacts the flight of the ball a little bit. Perfect conditions, perfect weather, and you're just allowing. And he would count backwards from like 40, 39, 38, ever so gently, ever so deeply, slipping into that peak performance zone. And to spend that amount of money to spend 6 or 8 hours with somebody, and they literally spend 6.5 of the 8 hours working on deep meditation, putting yourself into a trance, breathing exercise. We spent 45 minutes just on one breathing exercise, making sure that I got it. He wanted to make sure that I got what I came for. And when I looked at how I felt coming out of that and how I have felt going into the zone playing golf and going into the zone in sales interviews with customers, going into the zone if you're in any type of pressure situation, that has become, through repetition, my happy place. And play, a lot of times, will bridge the gap for people who are stressed out between the point of tapped out, hate their job, frustrated in their marriage, maybe frustrated with their kids, trouble with their finances. Between that and the actual happy place, I think play is the bridge, because it invokes, would you say
Provokes.
It provokes a change in the nervous system. And I can tell you that happened specifically with Jay Brunza, and then we'll go into some other details too.
It's important to recognize that play, there's nothing lazy about play. They don't call it playing sports or playing golf or playing
Nothing lazy
water
about professional
polo
golf, I can tell you
or
that.
playing a board game like playing Monopoly or playing game. All the persons who are involved in that play, in this active play, are participating in a combined, a joined effort to accomplish something or to compete or to make in that moment a difference, which is why I think that I was driving home even just today, and it just dropped in my subconscious mind that, the acronym for play. And so provoking a state change and playing is so important to recognize that it's an active, it's in action. There's nothing restful necessarily about play, which is why we do it in spurts. And like you said, it bridges the gap between going from one level to the next level. Who is it that wrote, do you remember who wrote Play It Away?
I don't remember the name
book?
of the guy, but I remember the book. He worked for Tim Ferris.
Yeah. There's a really, really good book called Play It Away.
Play It Away. Charlie something.
And it's
First name's Charlie. No, that's Charles Duhigg. But this is Charlie.
I know Tim Ferris. I know.
You can absolutely look it up online. We'll put a link to it. But Play It Away.
I know the 4-Hour Work Week also. He talks a lot about play. He talks a lot about being active in our enjoyment of the activities that we are doing. And so part of what we were talking about is yesterday, your daughter, she was on the episode two weeks ago, Madeline.
Yep.
I remember she came to you with an activity that she wanted to learn how to play.
Yes. She said, "Dad, did you ever skateboard?" I think she said, "Did you ever ride a skateboard?" And I did. When I was a kid. When I grew up, I always wanted to be a cool kid. I wanted to be I think everybody wants to be a cool kid, right? What does that mean? To me, it meant that I wanted to be the kind of kid that I thought other people thought that I was cool. And so I would try to do things that I thought were cool, that I thought other people did were cool, like play guitar or try smoking cigarettes or
whatever was cool at that
whatever was cool at the time, right? One of those things was riding a skateboard. And I always thought surf culture and skate culture was really cool. The designs on the T-shirts, the plaid board shorts, the plaid short sleeve shirts, the hats. That's where I'm wearing my Santa Cruz hat that I got yesterday at the board shop. I thought that the patina on the bottoms of the boards where the stickers would be placed, you can get plastic rails that you can slide and do rail grinds on or grind your trucks. But I thought the patina from grinding the boards, grinding the trucks, was cool. I thought that the stickers and the artistry, everything about skating to me was just really cool. And I got hurt really badly. I'm glad that I didn't break any bones, but I was knocked unconscious through a skateboard fall on a friend of mine's board that I didn't know that well. And it's not like if you have loose trucks, you've got loose trucks. Like you don't want to go fast on a skateboard that has really loose trucks because you overcorrect in your steering. And I wasn't really good with that anyway. And I was towed behind a mountain bike downhill on a paved street, and I don't remember. I just remember waking up in the hospital. I had fallen and been knocked unconscious for several minutes, and my dad was called. I woke up and my dad was there, and I was in the hospital. So I was out for a while. I mean, I was kind of in and out for a bit, but had double vision for a couple days, and then I recovered, and never really got on a skateboard again. And I didn't know there weren't pads.
Yeah,
They didn't
no.
have protection equipment or helmets. You were a wimp if you wore a helmet when I was a kid, right?
yeah.
We played with
Old
Matchbox
school.
cars.
We drank out of the hose. and
Drank
we-
out of the hose, played Matchbox cars in the dirt, had the dirt for dinner and lunch, you know. But Madeline asked me, "Have you ever skateboarded?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I love skating. Skating's totally cool." In fact, a friend of mine posted some beautiful painting, and she said, "These keep coming up in my feeds." And I'm like, "All I get is skateboarders and dirt bikes in my feed. You know, where's your head at, Jeff? Probably 8th grade, maybe." So Madeline had expressed some interest in this, and every dad wants to take care of his daughter. And as you get older and you have kids in their teenage years and in their 20s, the amount of things that you can do for them, like the ideas, like you can't buy them a Happy Meal toy. That's not going to do it, right? They like big stuff, or they're not really interested in that much stuff. So if you see something that your kid's interested in, and it's been 3 years since you've done anything really cool for them, so we went down and we got her a skateboard. Tried out a couple skateboards. We got her some pads
I thought
and a
it's
helmet.
interesting that she
and a
picked a
t-shirt.
trick board. She wasn't going
She did.
for a long.
She's not going for a long board. The
board.
boys have long boards here at the house. She could ride those if she wanted to. She wants to learn how to do tricks. And she said, I think it's kind of cool if a girl does something that mostly boys do. That's kind of rad. I'm like, yeah, it's nothing like increasing your odds too. And I said, if you ended up marrying a skateboarder, I'd be fine with it because those guys are tough as nails, man. They know how to take a beating, break fingers, break toes.
And that's part of what we're
get right
talking
back
about
on-
is they
on the
know how to
board.
play. I mean, it is a moment in time in which you can become young again, where you can feel the fountain of youth almost, if you will, come upon
Oh, it's so great.
you.
I skated yesterday and I sprained my ankle and I didn't even roll it. I mean, I woke up this morning, my ankle, I could tell my ankle was sprained and swollen and hurting, and I was
And
hobbling
when was the
around on
last
it.
time you did something that you
And-
could potentially even
Yeah,
sprain your
never,
ankle at?
never.
Right?
You can hit yourself in the head with a golf club. That's about it. Yeah, there's nothing dangerous. There's no sharks going to eat you. There's no broken bones in golf, right? But in skating and surfing, there are. And so we provoked a change.
Yes.
In the context of today's, we provoked a change. We bought a skateboard for our daughter. I got a skateboard. I got a pair of Vans that I wanted to have. I've been looking for a pair of sneakers anyway. So I got a pair of cool Vans, and Madeline got her stuff. And then we took Andrew and Osh with us for a date day. And one of the things that I do each week, I have a list of all the kids. And I check off to try to make sure that I get some one-on-one time or at least a group activity of something fun. I'm not perfect about it. And when I get off the checklist and fall off the wagon of detail and organization, sometimes I won't do those date days. But this week I was in position A, and we were able to go do that, and we provoked a change. And Madeline went out with me and Teddy, and we rode skateboards, not on our phones, out of the house, away from home, in the middle of summer, on a school playground that's closed down for the summer because school's out now. And we were able to go skate. I was able to skate with my kids. And to do that, to have that image and that memory of skateboarding like I used to do when I was a kid and do it with my kids, where I wasn't on my phone other than to record Madeline. I didn't get her falling, but she fell and hurt her booty. And she woke up sore. I woke up hobbling on my feet, and I don't even remember what I did. I just went skateboarding in flip-flops, which probably wasn't a great idea. But I was able to survive. I didn't have a helmet or any protective gear, but I wasn't doing anything crazy. And she just had the most fun time, woke up sore as all get out today, and we created a moment where we were able to provoke a change in our family, and one could even say in our identity a little bit, because I never saw myself as a skater, and now I'm like, wait, I'm wearing the skater bucket hat. I'm starting to look at skater shirts. I got skater shoes, we've got skateboards. I was riding one yesterday. Could it be that I'm a part-time skater? With the approach that I take to playing golf or playing guitar, kind of an obsession level thing. And I'm like into skating again. In one day, we were able to provoke what could potentially be a permanent change for the rest of my life, is that I'm a skater now, right? And somebody could say, oh, you're such a poser. You don't skate. You can't do tricks. You can't do a kickflip. Yes, all those things are true. But what we're talking about here is making the incremental improvements in the way that we go about things that allow us to partake in a broader spectrum of the wealth and riches of this experience on earth as human beings.
Let's look at the different forms of playing for a minute. We have playing a musical instrument.
Mm-hmm.
We have playing a sport. We have playing a game,
Games.
whether it's video or board game, just a game.
Travel.
We have,
I've been in the last month. I spent a week by myself in New Orleans, hanging out, listening to music, and going to museums, walking tours, riding bikes, painting, drawing. You spent like the weekend before Memorial Day.
It was in May, yeah.
You
in
and
May,
Madeline
went to L.A.
Went to Los Angeles, went to Disneyland and the Huntington Library, which is awesome, by the way. It's not in Huntington Beach, but what's the city that Huntington Library is in?
It's outside of Pasadena.
Pasadena.
It's basically Pasadena.
And then I did 3 days at the beach, Pebble Beach, for the wedding. And then I went to Santa Barbara for a few days. And then now you and I we're cruising down to L.A. Weekend after next to go do some fun stuff. So, like, travel is part of play to me.
Yeah. And we go to that saying, all work and no play makes Johnny a dull boy. And so we think about that in the context of work and the mundane potential drudgery of day in and day out and day in and day out.
Totally.
And so what I really wanted to focus on for these next 4 weeks is the structure, because there is a structure, the structure of play. When you're playing properly, like when you're actually playing, like what is it doing? What is it doing to your soul? What is it doing to your spirit? Today we talked about provoking a change and what that change will lead to, and you alluded to it leading to possibly identity changes and maybe habitual changes. But just inserting, it's interesting. I found raising these kids and having kids is that when you don't have to get on them about getting off devices or doing doing chore. You don't have to get on them and become a nag at them. When you introduce a successful way of play into their routine,
totally,
and you're able to say, you don't have to be that one that's like, oh my God, why are you on your phone? You've been on your phone for like 9 hours. When you get down on the floor with them and you go play a board game with them, or when you go to the store and you go, they've been mentioning Monopoly. You go to the store and you go buy a new version of Monopoly and you bring that home, and then they get the opportunity to be able to play. So introducing play into our daily routine will create and will provoke change. Absolutely, 100%. And so I want to encourage anybody who's reading and maybe leaving comments below on social media or reaching out to us via DM. What are you doing to play? Are you doing anything to play? So what are some successful things that you could suggest, Jeff, for people to play? You're a 40-something-year-old man. You just picked up skateboarding. Like what are some, when you have kind of entered into that meditative, transcendental, transive state of play, what were you doing at the time in order to really play hard?
So let's talk about the state of mind. I have a very good friend, Chris Doris, who has a catchphrase: control the state, don't wait. And his premise, which I disagreed with in the beginning, and I have come to understand what he's saying is true, with time and wisdom and just the ability to have perspective and think about it. His premise is, and I agree today, and have for a while, Chris, if you're listening, this is great stuff, that it is possible for somebody to live in the all-in state all the time. He talks about this concept of the all-in state, And we're getting a lot of this now about being present, putting our phones down. The way I look at it is a 4-step process of slow it down, break it down, pin it down, and buckle down. To me, if you were to say, well, how, Jeff, being present, like we're always present because wherever you go, there you are, right? So what do you mean by being present? To me, if there was a how do I get to being present, I found this little 4-step process really helpful for me. So number one, slow it down. We've talked about slow is fast on the podcast before. The guy that talked to me about taking his M16 apart blindfolded in 60 seconds so that if there was not a full moon out, you could do it in the field if your gun jammed. Slowing things down, our speech, our breathing, even the way that we do gestures. If we were to slow everything down, what I found is that the aperture opens really wide. If I'm tired, sometimes I'll go for a drive on the freeway and I'll make sure I'm the slowest guy on the freeway, and I'm thankful that I have a car that manages follow distance as part of the cruise control. But I will go and I'll set the speed at 2 or 3 miles below the speed limit. I'll just cruise along. Life's crawling. People are screaming past, honking as they pass me in the slowest lane. I'm like, sorry, I'm not going to do 80 in the slow lane. But I'm able to slow down, and the aperture for all the things that I notice gets to be really wide. My breathing slows down, which puts more oxygen and flushes cortisol and adrenaline and the stress hormones out of the body. That's slow it down. Break it down is, and I use Kanban in ClickUp. So there's an app, it's free, it's called ClickUp. You can look at a list of tasks and you can break those tasks into subtasks, and you can take those subtasks and break those into 1 and 2 workflow limited Kanban boards, free, no charge, super easy. We'll put, you can go straight to the ClickUp, or you can go to our affiliate link, which I'll put my affiliate link for ClickUp into the YouTube comments if you want to take a look at ClickUp through our affiliate link. Thank you for that. This is not sponsored by ClickUp, by the way, but I'm just a fan. I'm a paying user, and that allows me to break super complex projects down into chunked mile markers, down into medium-sized tasks, down into subtasks, and then you can literally look at the pixel of the painting that you're trying to do and say, okay, I just need this pixel to be blue. Okay, now I need this pixel to be orange, this pixel to be white and white and white and orange and orange and orange. And all of a sudden, your thing starts to take place because you're able to slow it down, break it down. Third thing, pin it down. So how many times do I talk about a system and a checklist of trying to get to where I can automate finding out what the next most important thing is to do at any given point in time? It has taken me 10 years to really get a simple binary system in place that I don't have to spend that much time thinking to get something to figure out what the next most important thing is. That's pinning it down. And then once you've slowed down, broken stuff down into a bite-sized piece, set a system in place to where you organized yourself so that I know exactly this bill has to be paid on this day. I've got to do it. There is nothing more important than this, and you can put your full force of work into it. Then buckle down and do whatever that next task is. To me, that's an example of being present. And by doing that, it creates the kind of state of mind to where we can overcome the inertia that comes from procrastination, the inertia that needs to happen from sitting on the couch, the inertia of getting off our Facebook feed. I'm all for Facebook, make money with Facebook ads, love Facebook. But as a consumption habit, if we spend too much time on our phones just draining, bleeding away, how many times have we sat there and a whole weekend goes by because we don't have to do anything, and we've lost 2 days because we're sitting there scrolling through our feed instead of...
And that's why I think that it's important that we talk about the fact that play is
Play is
an
the
action.
antidote to that.
It is an action. And trust me, we all have moments of rest and recovery where we're going to need to just sit and zone out and be on our phones. But rest and recovery, being on our phones, that is not active. Play is active. And being present while you play, as you were going through your list of slowing things down and breaking things down, made me think of when you're in an escape room, which is super fun. lots of play, have to be present. And we did that one in Reno where we went as a team in a team building
guys
staff
did, yeah.
exercise, and we did an escape room. You have, 30 minutes that you have to work together as a team in order to get out. And so you have to be completely present in that moment of play. And I can see as we were going
Skateboarding.
through
Same thing.
we're going through the
better be on
escape room, you have to be slow because you have to pay attention to all the details. Are you matching up the right key code to the right key code? Because if you miss a detail, then you're going to stay locked in your room and you're not going to make your goal, which is to get out in 30 minutes.
That's right.
And so being present while you play is a benefit. It's a side benefit. They cohabitate together, play and being present. Because if you're not present, you're going to fall off your board. If you're not present, you're going to miss that chord when you're practicing. And so I was thinking about this the other day. I was thinking about how, as a parent, until our kids get married and they're off and they've started their own family, how we are still more or less teachers, in my opinion, and what we've come to learn. We're teachers, we're hopefully mentors to our children until they go off and they begin their own families. And as teachers, they are practicing life. And when you are a teacher and you're teaching somebody how to play the piano, you miss a note, you go back and you play that stanza again, and you play that stanza again, and you play it again, and you play it again until you get that note. But when you're in a performance, keep going.
Yep.
You have to continue to go.
That's
and
right.
so many times I think that we overestimate the performance and we feel like we are in a performance, and so we've got to just keep going, just fall down and then just keep going, and don't do it again. But when you're playing, what you're doing is you're actually practicing. And as you're practicing, the more practice that you can do, the more play that you can do, the more fall down and get back up and fall down and get back up, trying to do that ollie.
And going back to golf and Dave Morris, when we were playing that tournament, I remember thinking, like, it was just a fun tournament. It wasn't anything. There was nothing on the line. But I remember thinking about how relaxing it was to play in competition with nothing on the line. And it was like, this is easy.
Yeah.
Because, it's a tournament, but it's, just a fundraiser tournament. It's not like you're playing to try to get on TV or play for $1 million, $2 million payout. Like, there was no pressure. It was very relaxed. And play, if you look at the NCAA and college sports, if you look at the USGA, which is the governing body for golf in the United States, versus the PGA Tour. PGA Tour is a business. USGA, I believe, is a nonprofit. And the PGA sets up all the tournaments for the big tournaments. And LIV Golf, Live Golf also now. Somehow they're going to merge. I don't know exactly how that's working out. I haven't been following it that closely, but the USGA handles tournaments for amateurs. And in today's naming convention or nomenclature, an amateur is like a wuss, like somebody who's not very good at something. Oh, you suck. You're an amateur.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That is what amateur means. It means you're not very good. You're not doing this like you get paid for it, obviously. And yet the original USGA understanding of an amateur was somebody who doesn't need to do this for money, right? Probably because they're wealthy, right? But they're not doing it to get paid. They're doing it because they love it. They're doing it because, and I think amateur, is French for doing it because you love it, right? It's got
it would seem that the people that became professionals, like in Bobby Jones's point of view, were the gamblers. Those were the
professional golfers in the day were people
the
that
desperados.
they fix broken clubs and do lessons on the weekends, and then they play tournaments.
And I'm referring to Bobby Jones was a lawyer who was an amateur.
Comes from a great, super successful family. His grandfather was a manufacturer of indigo denim, and took indigo plants and used it to dye denim to make fabric for Civil War. His dad. His factory, I think, was blown up in the Civil War, but he comes from a very successful, very wealthy family, and he was an amateur. And it was, for him to play professional golf in that day would have been an insult to his family and to, because like, why do you have to do this? Why do you have to do this thing for grubby money versus just doing it because you love it? So I'm not saying one view or the other is right. I'm just saying the whole concept of doing something out of pleasure, personally, I think has been, if not lost, it's been under attack for a long time because we live in a country and an economy, and you and I we're in it. We're not any different from anybody else, but we like nice things. We're told constantly what we need to buy and how all of our problems will be solved with another handbag or another Mercedes. And as a result of that, we spend a lot of our time making money in order to consume the finances, having this nice lifestyle. And it can be overly taxing in ways that, long term, I think are not healthy. And something that as I've gotten older, I've realized I need to play. I need to do skateboarding and golf and to play music, not just as a diversion from work or to take the edge off, as I've often said, but actually to tap into that state of mind of creativity, that all-in state that comes from rest and recovery. A great article, which I've talked to in the past, it is The Making of a Corporate Athlete, Harvard Business Review, circa 2002. We can post that in the comments as well. Talked about the very highest level performers, the thing that made them better in almost every area and aspect of their business was that they infused recovery into their nervous system, into their bodies to offset the waves of exertion that they put into their job or their business or their pro sport or whatever it was. And the recovery could be broken down into 4 areas, which were spiritual recovery, prayer, meditation, anything dealing with frontal lobe improvement and delta, theta, and alpha states of mind, mental challenge, reading, study, education, sociological, relationship-wise, and then physical fitness. And that the waves of recovery that people would push back into their systems after they would exert themselves would allow them to have better night's sleep, be way more creative, enjoy their free time more, set better and stronger boundaries with work hours and relationships and things like that. And that that really at a peak performance level. And I've seen people in sales. I have a very good friend of mine, Justin Sheen, who I noticed about him in his early 30s. The more stressful something got, the more relaxed he got. He was very calm. And let's talk about that. What seems to be the trouble here, right? And he would never talk like that unless the crap was hitting the fan. And then he would go into this like sunk down, almost meditative trance-like state, as if he had been waiting for everybody to lose their cookies over something so that he could be cool, calm, and collected, and then work through things at a very relaxed, late-night DJ voice kind of methodology of doing things. And it really taught me that, hey, you need both sides. You can't just exert. And quite frankly, fatigue and Zoom fatigue and all these other things are showing that unless we start getting really serious about scheduling ritualistic recovery, I don't mean like spiritual or churchy, I just mean the ritualistic, repetitive habits of recovery into our system, and play being one of the big ones for that, we're going to lose the opportunity to, would you say provocate? Provoke. We're going to lose the opportunity to provoke a change that takes us into that peak performance state, which not only increases our income, our influence, our ability to lead, new ideas that come for ancillary or adjacent business opportunities, but also to create the kinds of relationships with our family, with ourself, our bodies, with our understanding of body position and time and space. I mean, playing, for example, on the skateboard was, it was joy. It was joy. Unadulterated, totally pure childhood thrills. Be able to get on a skateboard for the first time in, I don't even know how many decades, probably 3, probably been over 30 years since I've been on a skateboard. But to be able to do that and skate around because I was on a date day with my daughter, she expressed an interest in something, and I was present with her out of habit and out of a desire to be ready to serve at that high level. And then I get the huge reward of being able to go do something super cool. We binge watch Tony Hawk videos like for the next 12 hours. But I think as far as provoking a change in your family, a family dynamic, impacting your ability to work at the highest level with the most exertion for the most value, with the most creativity, I think that's the secret.
And with that, we thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of our 4-week series on play, Provoking a Change. Tune in next episode for learning how play can lead us into a path and into a response. Maybe perhaps you felt like you've been stuck. Maybe you are in
Try playing.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe
you haven't received a promotion in a while and it's time. Well, how's your play life going? Have an awesome rest of your day, guys, and thanks for liking, sharing, and subscribing. We appreciate you so much. Bye from the Jeff Heilman Project.
Have a great day.